It's a question that weighs heavily on many hearts. Why does God seem silent? Life often presents moments when we feel like our prayers are hitting a ceiling or that heaven has gone quiet. In those times, we may wonder if God is listening or if He even cares. This silence can feel especially daunting when we're facing trials, seeking direction, or longing for answers. But as we delve into this topic, we'll discover that God's silence often has a profound purpose. Let's explore why God may seem silent, what we can learn during these periods, and how His silence can actually be an invitation to deeper faith. Personal experience: when prayers feel unanswered. Many of us have experienced times when God seems distant. We cry out in prayer, but the answers don't come. Perhaps you've prayed for healing, guidance, or provision and found yourself waiting without resolution. These moments can feel isolating and even faith-shaking. Yet, Scripture reminds us that God is aware of every tear we shed. In Psalm 56 verse 8, David writes, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle." This verse assures us that God is not indifferent to our struggles. His silence does not equate to absence. Rather, it's an opportunity for us to press deeper into our faith. Main reasons for God's silence: a test of faith. Example: Job's trials and unwavering faith. Job is perhaps the most well-known example of enduring silence. Despite losing his family, wealth, and health, Job held onto his faith, declaring, "Though he slay me, yet will I hope in him." Job 13 verse 15. During Job's darkest hours, God was silent, but not absent. His silence tested Job's faith, refining it like gold. In the end, God restored Job's life, blessing him abundantly. Key message: when God is silent, He may be testing our faith. Like a teacher who remains quiet during an exam, God allows us to apply what we've learned. These moments stretch and strengthen us, building a resilient and mature faith. To teach patience. Scriptural reference: wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. Psalm 27 verse 14. Example: Abraham and Sarah's wait for Isaac. Abraham and Sarah were promised a child, yet they waited 25 years before Isaac was born. During that time, they experienced doubts and even tried to take matters into their own hands. But God's promise was fulfilled at the perfect time, demonstrating that His timing is always right. Lesson: waiting can be incredibly difficult, but it's a crucial part of spiritual growth. Through waiting, we learn to trust God's timing and His plans, even when we don't understand them. Patience refines our character and deepens our dependence on Him. To encourage growth. Example: David's wilderness years. Before becoming king, David spent years fleeing from Saul and living in the wilderness. These years of hardship shaped him into a man after God's own heart. In the silence and solitude, David learned to trust God, leading to some of the most heartfelt psalms. Analogy: a seed grows in darkness before it sprouts into the light. Similarly, periods of silence are often times of hidden growth. They prepare us for the challenges and blessings ahead. Lesson: God's silence doesn't mean He's ignoring us. It's often during these times that we experience the greatest spiritual growth. When we emerge from these seasons, we find ourselves stronger and more rooted in faith. To draw us closer to Him. Scriptural reference: draw near to God, and He will draw near to you. James 4 verse 8. Example: the prodigal son's return. In the story of the prodigal son, Luke 15 verses 11 to 32, the son's journey of loss and regret eventually brought him back to his father. The father didn't chase after him, but waited, arms open, for his return. Message: God's silence can be His way of drawing us closer to Him. When we don't hear His voice, we're often compelled to seek Him more earnestly. This deepens our relationship with Him, fostering intimacy and trust, to prepare us for a greater purpose. Example: Jesus on the cross. When Jesus cried out on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Matthew 27 verse 46. It reflected a moment of intense silence and separation. Yet this silence was part of God's ultimate plan of redemption. Through Jesus' death and resurrection, the greatest victory was achieved. Lesson: God's silence often precedes significant revelations or missions. Like Jesus, we may endure moments of silence that prepare us for greater purposes. These times teach us to trust God's plan, even when we don't see the full picture. Encouragement and hope. Reassurance. God's silence is not his absence. Isaiah 41 verse 10 reminds us, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you." Even when God seems silent, he is present, working behind the scenes for our good. His plans are always for our welfare, not our harm. Jeremiah 29 verse 11. Encouragement. Stay strong in prayer. In Luke 18 verse 1, Jesus taught his disciples that they should always pray and not give up. Persistent prayer demonstrates faith and trust in God's timing. Even when answers are delayed, we can hold on to the promise that God hears and cares. Conclusion in prayer. As we reflect on God's silence, let's remember that it often serves a purpose, whether to test our faith, teach patience, encourage growth, draw us closer, or prepare us for something greater. Prayer points. Steadfastness during tests. Lord, give us unwavering faith like Job, to trust you even in the silence. Grace to wait patiently. Teach us to wait, like Abraham and Sarah, trusting that your timing is perfect. Growth during silence. Help us to embrace the seasons of silence, knowing they foster spiritual maturity. Drawing closer to God. May we seek you earnestly, like the prodigal son, and find intimacy with you. Courage to fulfill God's purpose. Give us the courage, like Jesus, to endure the silence and embrace the mission you have for us. Blessing. May you trust in God's love, timing, and plans, knowing that his silence is not rejection but an invitation to deeper faith. Hold on to hope, for the God who seems silent today will speak powerfully into your life tomorrow. This draft conveys the message with a mix of scriptural references, examples, and encouragement, providing clarity and comfort for those wrestling with God's silence. Let me know if you'd like adjustments or additions.